Zeg Films.
Subscribe.
Hello and welcome to the first viewing. So yesterday I saw the long-awaited Halloween Kills. I've been a big fan of the Halloween franchise for a few years now, and I can honestly say that I was incredibly excited about this film. Even to the point where I actually watched it at home, streaming it on Peacock, which streaming new releases is something that I normally never do and something that I actively avoid doing because I just really value the theatrical experience more than anything. So firstly, the opening credits of the film are really awesome. They're super satisfying and honestly better than 2018. It's not just one jack-o'-lantern, it's an entire patch of jack-o'-lanterns all burning to the ground, which you could argue is partly because of the theme of the film. The new version of the classic and iconic Halloween theme is really great. I love that it firstly has those iconic piano keys, but it also brings in lots of church choir-like voices in a way that really makes it sound more organic and demon-like. So the film opens with some flashbacks to the last two films, and one of the things that I really love about this movie is the way that it builds off of 2018 and 1978. The first couple scenes are a bit boring, but the first scene to really stand out and the first really incredible scene in this movie is Michael's main introduction. You've probably already seen parts of it in the trailers, or if you've already seen the film, you've obviously seen it, but essentially Michael walks out of the burning house and just massacres a bunch of firefighters. It's an absolutely intense and incredible just bloodbath. But that said, the kills throughout the rest of the film can be a bit underwhelming. I don't know if that's really this movie itself not being up to par, or if that's because it opened with such an incredible killing scene and he turned a guy's head into a jack-o'-lantern in the last film. It's really hard to one-up that. Though he does kill a lot more in this film, and there's this one scene near the beginning where he breaks into an old couple's home and kills both of them, and that scene is really creepy. The build-up of Michael's reveal is very intense and eerie, and when they finally show him, he immediately smashes the light out and it goes dark again as the man runs away, shouting that there's someone in the house. Michael grabs him through the window and smashes his head in. The entire scene is so intense and terrifying. On that note, I think Michael is honestly a lot more terrifying in this film than he has been in either of the first two, or at least than in the first film. I especially love when we occasionally get a slight glimpse of what he looks like under the mask, though it's always hidden in shadow and blood and just massive scars across his face. Ultimately, this film is more about Michael than it is anyone else. The first film is all about Laurie, the second is more about Allison, but this film is really primarily focusing on Michael Myers, on his story, on his character, and on his psyche. Seeing Tommy grown up is really great. He's such a good character in this film, turned from just a child who really didn't have any character. The way that he completely loses it when he finds out Michael Myers is back, the way that Laurie did in the last film, he just immediately starts hunting him down and causes lots and lots of pain to innocent people along the way, in a way that is really reflective of what this film's themes are and what it's trying to discuss. Honestly, I think the best stuff in this film comes from Tommy and definitely from Michael. Michael, for the most part, is just sort of walking around killing people at random. It doesn't really have much of anything to do with what the main characters are doing, and honestly, I think that that's kind of the point. Most of the actual plot and most of the very serious and important stuff that happens is in the hospital. That's where the entire town is sort of situated, and that's where everything kind of goes wrong. It is very reflective of human nature, and it's trying to show the darkness that lies in all people, not just one man. This film is also full of flashbacks from 2018 and from 1978. One of the parts of that I really love is seeing how Michael got arrested. What they actually ended up doing is nothing really all that special. They surrounded him with lots of guns and he just stood still as they brought him in. But the situation surrounding his arrest and the cop who ultimately does it is really very interesting, and it has a lot of impact on the continuation of the story and on the cop's personal story along with the overall story of the film. There is a lot of incredibly advanced filmmaking at play in this movie. This film uses some really incredible cinematography and very creative shots that are just shockingly terrifying. There's one shot in the firefighter scene in which you actually see the POV of one of the firefighters as one of these firefighting tools, I don't know what it's called, smashes straight through the hole, and you actually see it come through and the blood splattering out like it's your perspective. You are the one who was just impaled through the skull. And it also recreates a lot of scenes from the first two films, like the carjacking scene in the original. It recreates that one here, but all of that is done in such a way that is not at all, to me anyway, over the top. It's not like they're winking at the camera like, hey, you see that? We did that. That's from that first movie. You remember that? Remember that from the first movie? They didn't do anything like that. It all felt very subtle and very honest. It was just a nice, subtle thing to see and be like, hey, that's pretty cool. To me, this film really seems to be about the true darkness of human nature. It's very deep and very well done. And ultimately, it brings the film to a much higher level. And I think that it's mainly like that because of the way that the entire town sort of loses it over Michael being back. They all riot and chant, and I don't want to spoil anything, but some really bad stuff happens because of the people of the town, not because of Michael Myers. Hey, focus on me. Human face, right here. Focus on that. What is my autofocus doing right now? Over here. Whatever. I'm not going to spoil it here, but the ending of this film is really incredible. It compares Michael to Laurie so well, and it definitely reiterates the themes on human nature and of the essence of evil. And it ultimately brings the film to a much higher level with a genuinely shocking twist at the end. And I don't really like to use the word twist, only because that has the connotation of being like a M. Night Shyamalan plot twist. Oh, the murderer was actually your cousin or your brother. That's stupid. This movie has a really genuinely good moment at the end where you're genuinely surprised by what happens, and it doesn't feel forced at all. It feels like a natural progression of what should happen. I honestly do not think that they need to make any more Halloween sequels. I think that this particular film would be a perfect place to end the franchise. It provides a very nice, satisfying trilogy, and it provides a really nice, high-level ending that brings the story into even more themes about human nature and about evil rather than the same themes from the first two films. This movie is definitely a bit underwhelming, primarily because of the anticipation and the build-up it had, but it is still a really great film which is left up to interpretation at the end, which honestly is part of what makes it such a great film and part of what makes this such an incredible, groundbreaking, historic franchise. My mouth is so dry. It has been so dry all day. Thank you all for watching this installment of the first viewing. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, maybe even subscribe. Thank you all again for watching, and have a nice day.